Hey guys, Joe here. So in this video, I want to talk about the common things that I see the contractors that order from us that they're not doing, that's really hurting them. You know, between not getting enough leads, people not knowing they exist, um, making it harder to sell jobs, all these kinds of things. So number one, and I've seen this at least twice this week now, is people don't have a Google My Business listing, or they never claimed their Google My Business listing. Now, this usually applies to, honestly, the older generation, the ones that are used to like the phone book and stuff like that. Like they don't get it, right? But there was a person this week, they were on the younger side, and they still don't have one. And lucky for them, I think they get a decent amount of work because they actually, you can just tell talking to them, like they just seem like a nice, honest person. And that kind of comes across like when they're talking to, homeowners and stuff like that. But it's severely limiting the number of leads that you get. Because what we have to do is we have to remember what people do when they are trying to get a fence, installed or whatever service that you sell, right? And so typically, I know what I personally do, and like millions of other people do as well, is they will go on Google, whether that's Google itself or Google Maps, and they're going to type in fence company near me. Sorry, this thing's weird. They type in fence company near me, right? Or whatever service near me, top service near me, whatever. But it's typically the same thing. Well, if you don't have a Google My Business listing, you're losing out on like hundreds or even potentially thousands of calls every year. So the reason why I know this is because when I had my fence company that we have since sold, that generated about 2,000 leads a year just from that. Now that was also that the last year and two that I owned the company. That was during COVID and stuff like that. So now it's probably nowhere near as much. But honestly, it's probably a good. I wish they would still have the tracking for this kind of stuff. They got rid of it. But honestly, it's probably somewhere around at least 1,000 calls that the new owner was going to receive this year just because of that. Now, it's probably about that. We'll just go with about 1,000. But anyway, like even if it was 500, just 500, can you imagine having an extra 10 leads a week, right? So, and people just don't do it. Now, just realize that when with Google My Business, it's not like Google Ads or anything like that. So it's not like you set it up and you immediately get phone calls, right? It's more like SEO. It's something that has to be built over time. This is where you have to put work towards it. Like you have to add photos. You have to make sure you're getting reviews, things like that. And if you're not doing that kind of stuff, then it's not going to help you rank all that well, okay? So that's number one. Number two, I see it all the time. And before I figured it would kind of be helpful, but just from working with this one particular company is they are like crushing it with the local search ads. The really nice things with these is it's kind of, think of like Angie's List, except for the lead doesn't go to like 4 and 5 other people. It just goes to you. And the nice part is if it's not a qualified lead, then what's going to happen is, like if it's something that you just don't service or whatever, you can mark it as unqualified. And so what's going to happen is you don't get charged for that lead, and you only get charged for leads. So it's not like you're running Google Ads, and if they're not working really well, like you might spend, I've seen it, is you might be spending like $200 per phone call. I'm not kidding you if you don't have your Google Ads set up correctly. So look at the local search ads. Sometimes it is a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. I know the guy I'm working with, he had to call like 4 times easily because it seemed like it was working, then it wasn't working, and then the verification process took longer than it was supposed to. It looked like everything went through. He had to submit things multiple times, but like he just came in today. He's getting like 2 and 3 calls a day right now, whereas a lot of guys that I talk to, they're super slow. That's the other problem. The next problem that I kind of just spoke about now, Google Ads. If you set up your own Google Ads, chances are they are screwed up royally. The reason why is because Google introduced more or less like this easy button. And so with this easy button, it just basically spends your money. Doesn't matter how, it just spends your money. And so if you start looking at, if you're running your own Google Ads, a really easy way to tell if you are getting bent over, number one is the phone's not ringing. But number two, look at your cost per click, okay? It'll be in the Google Ads. I'm not gonna edit this video, so you're gonna have to just deal with it. But if you look at the cost per click, if it's less than like, it really depends on your area, but if it's less than, and also, I'm sorry, so it depends on the area and it depends on your service. So things like roofing and plumbing and HVAC are gonna be a lot higher than something like fencing, right? Something like lawn mowing, things like that. Why? Because it's a more profitable service and more people are in it, right? So I'm going to say if it's anything less than $3, $4, $5, if you're in like the kind of like the fencing industry, honestly, for the other industries, if you're in like HVAC and roofing and stuff like that, it's probably something closer to like $8, $10, $12 per click. If it's anything less than that, like remarkably less than that, like I've seen where it's like, oh, I'm only paying 30 cents per click. That means what's happening is they have you on display ads. So it's not like someone's typing in fence company near me and then your ad showing up. You are just showing up at that point on, people will be searching random stuff. They'll be on a website and you might see like a banner ad off to the side and then people click on that. The problem with them is that they're almost like Facebook ads and things like that, where they're not intentionally looking for you, they just happen to click on it. And what's happening is the cost per click is very low, but the cost per lead is extremely high. Because what happens, and these two numbers, they coincide with each other, but if every cost per click is just say $5, and it takes you 10 people to click in order for one person to call, well, that means that your cost per lead, your CPL, is $50, 10 times 5, right? Well, if you're getting like 30 cent per click things, there's a good chance, like it might be like 1,000 clicks, something crazy, right? And I've seen it. So if you're running your own Google Ads and you're seeing low cost per clicks and you don't even really think they're working, shut them off immediately. Pause them, do whatever you have to, because I'm telling you, honestly, it's the same guy that it was for, both situations, that it was, I'm going to say it's at least $200 per phone call. And like the only reason, I never even thought to, ask him if he was doing Google Ads or anything like that, because he wasn't getting any calls. And then when he started saying it, and I talked about it in another video, but like he said something about Google Ads just offhand. I'm like, wait a minute, you do Google Ads and you're only getting like 3 calls per week? And he's like, yeah. And so I'm like, how much do you spend? And he's like, the one is like $40 per day. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're spending like $1,200 a month and you get like 3 calls a week? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but that's the one. The other one was whatever. It was like $3,000 a month for like 3 calls a week. Like, I am not shitting you. It was horrible. So again, if you're running them, please shut them off. The other thing that I see people not doing, and it's severely hurting your chances, this is from getting a leads perspective and then also getting to sell jobs, right? Increasing your closing rate, and not only increasing your closing rate, but by not doing this, you're going to end up having to compete on price. So by not doing this kind of shit, you're going to end up charging way less than you could be. Now, when I talk about this kind of stuff, and I say like, look, you're just not charging enough, and this is going to be able to help you charge more to the homeowner. This is not me saying like, look, you need to go take advantage of this customer. What I'm saying is, almost every single person I talk to, I would say if I talk to, out of 10, like is a bad example. Well, I would say if I talk to 10 people, at least 9 of them aren't charging enough, right? And I was guilty of this as well. You have to be charging enough to run a business. If you're doing everything on your own, you're actually installing and everything else, I guarantee that you're not charging enough, because you're charging what a regular labor person would charge, right? But you have a business to run. And also the way we have to look at it is, it's not good enough for like, if you're like, okay, I want to make 150 grand this year. Great. But the thing is, that's what your salary is, right? The business has to make money as well. Because what happens when you want to go invest in the, hopefully I'm turning here. That's for a station. So what happens if you need to get new equipment, like a truck, trailer, whatever? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to end up taking money out of your own pocket. So your business has to generate business. I mean, it has to generate profit so that way it can self-sustain, it can invest itself back into the company, things like that. The other thing that I see a lot is that there's not a system in place. So this is where you're using pen and paper, you're not following up and everything else. If you're not putting some kind of automations within your business, and you're the one that's answering the phone calls, the emails, you're going out to the estimates, you're going to install the job and all this other kind of shit, you're losing so much money that you just don't even comprehend. Why? Because the money is in the follow-ups. If you watch any kind of sales training whatsoever, it's always about the follow-up. Now, there was a scrolling through Facebook the other day, and there was a thing from Grant Cardone, and so I don't honestly know if this is true, but it talked about like the percentage of people that the closing percent, right? So it talked about like the first phone call, the 2 to 3, the 4 to 5, the I don't know, it's like 6. It's something like the first call, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and then like I don't know, just say 6 to 7, 8 to 12, something like that, or 8 to 20. The majority, and it's not even like a small majority, the majority is in the 5th, the 8th, the 10th, the 12th plus connections, right? And you might be thinking, well, there's no way I should be following up that much, right? Yeah, like you shouldn't be following up every week and saying, hey, is there anything else I can do for you, right? It's not going to do anything. So what you can do, and this is kind of ties into another point, is, so I guess this would be another thing. There's no auto follow-up sequences, right? So where are the phone calls? Where are the text messages? Where are the emails and things like that that are providing value to your potential customer? The more value you can provide to your customer, the way more chances that you are, oh, there's deer right here. How cool. The way more chance that you're going to end up booking that job. And then the other thing is when you're doing this kind of follow-up and stuff like that, or just providing value, what's going to happen is they're going to associate the higher value with your company, which is going to be able to get you to be able to charge more. And again, it's not taking advantage, but it's charging appropriately. Okay. The last thing, I've been like hitting on this a lot. Did I talk about the videos? I feel like I don't know. I don't think I talked about the videos, but I feel like I'm talking about them all the time. And like I told Paul yesterday, is we should be talking about the same show, because you may not have heard this video yet, right? You have to do videos. The reason for that is it will make your life so much easier. It's going to build a connection with the customer. It's going to get them to know, like, and trust you. It is going to be able to get you to increase your closing percent. It will allow you to charge appropriately. It will break down so many sales barrier where you're not even trying to close the job. Like, they're just gonna, my goal was like, how do I book the job or get them to want us before I even talk to them, right? And so these are just some of the things you can do. Now, I made another video. It's the video right before this, but it talks about, what, if you don't know what to do in a video, like what are the things you should talk about, how you should do it, things like that, you should watch that video. If I actually remember, it's going to be a link somewhere, but it will be extremely helpful. I'm telling you. And yes, and I told Paul this, and I told my son this, because it was something I heard the other day from somewhere, and I put it in the other video as well. If you're worried about in the beginning if your videos are going to suck, they will, because you're going to suck at them, because you haven't done them yet. But just like in this, I give you tips on how to do it. But after you do the first 10, 20, 50, 100, in my case, I don't know what video number this is, 350, 400 or more, it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, you just don't give a shit. Like, you just end up talking, and I give you tips, one of which is like I'm talking to myself. Like, this is a selfie type video. So I can see myself. I'm obviously looking at road. This is one of the tips that I talk about, is like when you're in a car, just get a freaking suction cup device and clip it and start talking. And if you're not worried about audio, that's why I talk about these things. So anyway, I pulled up to this house and I got to go. See ya.